crack right there.
All right, welcome back, viewers. How's everything? All right, so today we got the seal in for the Toyota pickup. All right, so we're going to be installing the seal into the differential. All right, as you can see, the part number is 90311 TAC 38047. All right, this is an official Toyota seal. As you can see, it's got the actual lip to keep the extra dirt out. It'll ride up on your companion shaft. All right, that extra lip is going to ride face down like so. All right, this extra seal is just going to face inside here. All right, and when we put the nut in, all right, we're going to torque this nut down to 80 foot-pounds. All right, but our backlash for the diff should be 8.7. About, yeah, yeah, 5.2 to 8.7 inch-pounds for backlash, but we're not really changing that. Now it's going to talk about the max input. Maximum torque is a 174. We don't want to do that because then we're going to start crushing that crush sleeve in this differential. And if we do that, then we're going to have some issues, and we're going to start changing the pinion depth in the ring gear. Then you'll start hearing a high pitch whine. If you start to drive it, then you're going to end up burning up the differential. Since it's already been set, been preloaded before, we're just going to re-torque everything down. So we're just going to bring it up to that 80 foot-pounds. Now, if it was all brand new, that's where we'd want to hit it to that 174 and actually hit that crush sleeve in the differential, so it actually compresses and it gives you that proper depth with the pinion and the ring gear to mesh correctly. All right, so that's the reason behind that. But like I said, we got the seal. We have a 2-inch socket, 3/4 inch drive. All right, and we're going to use this to help drive the seal in. All right, but if you don't have that, because most of you people do not have that, you could just use like a hammer, dead blow hammer, mallet. Right, if you don't have a mallet, you can use a brass hammer. Just kind of tap it in slowly. All right, if you don't have a socket or something big like that, like I said, I would start with a 2-inch piece of exhaust pipe or some PVC pipe. All right, you know, just take your seal into like the hardware store and see what would go pretty much out here to the edge of your seal, so you can drive it in. It shouldn't take much force to drive it in, but what we're going to do is going to go ahead and drive this in, take it out of the package. But we'll get down here in the work area. As you can see down here, I have a glove up on the front of the pinion to prevent any oil from leaking out and any dirt from getting out. So with that being said, we're going to use some cardboard and slide over this mess so we're not laying in that the expanding cat litter that has the absorbent in it, because that's really stuff really makes a mess. So with that being said, we'll pull the cardboard forward, we'll get over the mess. We're going to clean that up, hit it with some contact cleaner, brake cleaner, then we'll put the new seal in. We're going to end up draining the oil and refill the differential and everything like that, and we'll end up going up and doing the same thing to the transmission and drop that fluid. Then with driveline stuff, this will all be pretty much completed, and we'll be good for the driveline of the Toyota pickup. So I just want to catch you guys back up on some of the brakes. So we got some of the issues with the brakes here. We got them all taken care of, so they're all installed. So And that's pretty much it with that. So other than that, guys, we'll get right after it. All right guys, so we got the creeper out, and I just wanted to talk about this real quick. This creeper was a Harbor Freight creeper, as you can notice the flames. I got this like in 2005. It was really cheap, right? Well, the plastic had got hot in storage and it cracked and it all ripped up. So what I did, I went to the Walmart and got some of this cotton canvas material, and I actually used that, and I put some 3/4 inch plywood over the really thin plywood that had here, and I sturdied this thing all the way up, and I just used a bunch of staples and made it, you know, somewhat presentable as best I could. I'm not into the upholstery, but you know, I just used some of that bed foam, you know, on here, so to give it a nice cushion. So then I stepped to put a piece of 3/4 inch plywood here, then you got the 3/4 inch plywood here over top of like the 7/16 plywood. So it sturdied this thing up a whole lot, but that's not like resistant to like any type of oil, so we don't want to get oil in that creeper. I should put some sort of a canvas on it, like a vinyl, but for right now it's fine. But when we get it saturated in oil, then we might go into putting the canvas on it. So it's better than it was, and you know, before we had the plastic jabbing into your back and everything like that. So let's get underneath the vehicle and get this thing going. All right, so some of the tools that we need to cover here. All right, so we obviously have our seal, we have our companion flange, we have our bolts, lock washers, we have the Loctite, we have some brake clean, we got the hammer, we got the 30 mil socket, got a breaker bar, 3/8 ratchet, and we have a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter here, because it's just easier because sometimes you need a smaller area, you just need a smaller ratchet. We have the impact over here with the 21 on to take the lugs off if you need it up for the wheels. We'll go ahead and switch it to the 30 mil socket to run the nut in on the pinion, but we're not going to send it home because we're going to torque this down to 80 foot-pounds. Okay guys, but make sure we got everything laid out. We got our torque wrenches over here. We got a 1/2 inch up to 150, and we got a 3/8 to up to 75 foot-pound. Okay, so the proper way you do your backlash, you would use a dial, a torque wrench, and we were looking for 5.2 to 8.7 inch-pounds, and basically you're looking for that in drag. All right, we should be already good because the compression sleeve was already compressed, so we should be already there to that point. Like I said, all we got to do is go ahead and torque this down to that 80 foot-pounds. All right, if we just ran this thing up to the 174, we would probably change that complete preload on that pinion, and we'd have excessive gear on gear noise, and it'd be too shallow or it'd be too deep. So we're just going to torque that down to where it needs to be. For the companion flange, we got 214 mils for the the nut, so you're only going to be able to get it in there one way. All right, so we just want to clean them up with a wire brush before we do anything, put some Loctite on them, and prevent anything from coming off going down the road. All right guys, we'll see you underneath the vehicle. All right guys, so what we have done now, we just went through and cleaned up the seal, wiped it out. Just, you want to get all that nasty oil, debris, don't try to knock it into the actual differential. Just wipe it out, you know, get what you can around the case, and then once it's done, you can always come up underneath here with the pressure washer. But before you start projects, if you actually take the time to wash it, it makes it a lot easier and cleaner, so you don't have to worry about cross-contamination. So what we need to do now is go ahead and get our seal. Okay, all right, remember that flange will face out. Okay, it's going to go in just like that. And this is that Toyota part number again. All right, so if you guys got questions about that, we'll go ahead and get started with it. Okay. All right, so we have the seal here, and inside that you can see there's a spring, the lip, the seal that's actually going to ride inside here, and we can see how it fits. We got a nice fit just by lining it up. But one thing that I'm going to do is come inside the seal, and I'm going to pack inside here with some axle grease to prevent that rubber seal from drying out, and the grease will actually prevent that that spring from popping off the lip, because if that happens, you're just going to leak. So the grease will actually hold the spring inside that rubber seal when we go to put the actual companion flange in, so we don't want to pop that out. That is possible to do that, but before we drive this home, all right, we're going to put some grease inside the seal here, okay? So we'll be back in 1 second. All right, guys, so we went ahead and put some grease around the seal on the inside, as you guys can see, and we're just going to rub some grease on the inside to lubricate the lip. And like I said, that grease will just, you pack that in there and it'll keep that spring from popping out, and it also keeps that rubber from drying out and cracking over time. Don't have to worry about, because you're putting grease in the differential, it's going to be fine with the oil, so you won't have an issue with that. So just be mindful of that. It does help. So you're trying to do the job once and one time only, so let's just do it right the first time. All right, guys, so we got the seal kind of placed into the differential, right into the pinion carrier. So what we're going to do, we'll go ahead and get that 2-inch socket, and we're going to set over top of that, and then we're just going to go ahead and just drive that in. All right, so we'll go ahead and put 2-inch socket over top. All right, and what we're going to do is just go ahead and drive that in. I really can't video this, but let's just see if I can get a shot like so, and we'll go ahead and knock it in. Give you kind of a view like this. We'll just go ahead and use this. All right, so now the seal might want to start popping in crooked, so just be mindful. You might have to hit it a little bit and change the socket to the top, to the bottom, and just kind of drive it in and get it in straight as possible. All right, so as you can see, it kind of popped out, and it went a little crooked on me, so I'm going to have to use the punch or a drip pin and kind of push this side in a little bit to get it to center up. All right, we'll see you guys back in a few. All right, guys, so as you can see inside there, I wrote 27 because that's a 27 spline. So we went ahead and got the companion flange installed. We put a little bit of grease on it. Notice we got some anti-seize going in there for the you know, the splines, so it doesn't seize up on us. And we're just gonna go ahead and just line that up and drive that in a little bit, get it seated. And what we're going to do next is we're going to look for our spacer, okay? All right, so you want to put the spacer back on the way it came off, and as you can see, the reference marks here, the splines face that way, and we're going to go ahead and seat it in there, okay? What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off. So we're just gonna go ahead and wipe this seal off, or this spacer, washer, shim off. All right, so we're just gonna wipe this off. Trying to get all that contamination off of it, all the dirt, grime. All right, so we got it wiped off, and now we're gonna go ahead and slide it on. All right, then the last thing that we need, where did that go? Last thing we need to do is just go ahead and put the pinion nut on. Let me go ahead and find that wherever it rolled off to. All right, guys, so we got the nut installed. We got some Loctite on it. We're just going ahead and run it in. Now you can see we got the old spot where we staked down into the actual the chamfer up here, okay? So we want to get to that position. So we'll torque this down to 80 foot-pounds, and we should line it up on it. If we're notice we got a little bit left there, the crank going down. So we're just gonna kind of zip this in with the impact a little bit slowly, just to bring it in. Then we'll get to our final torque with the torque wrench. All right, and we should be good. All right, and remember that's going to torque down to 80 foot-pounds. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and lightly run the impact in. All right, still haven't seated it all the way. Okay, it's pretty close to being seated. I'm just going to give it one more zip. Here and wipe off this Loctite, and you can see that we got this thing almost exactly where it needs to be when we took it off. But what we're going to do, we're going to come back in there with that torque wrench, all right, and we're just going to set it to 80 foot-pounds. Then we're going to use a punch and stake that, you know, make sure it doesn't come off. All right, the Loctite's just a little bit of extra protection. Then once we do that, we're going to come over here and get our drive shaft. Let's just check to make sure our U-joints are bad. They don't look bad up there. We don't have no leaks going on up there on the transmission. And we're going to put these bolts in here, and those will torque down to 22 to 36 foot-pounds. We do have a 14 mil crow's foot to do that. Now, if we had a torque adapter, we'd have to change the torque spec because you're offsetting the angle. But since you have a crow's foot and you're only going 90 degrees, it won't affect it. So I'll show you that here in a bit. All right, guys, so we got 3 bolts already installed with blue Loctite. And we're gonna go ahead and run the bolt in. Okay, slide it into the hole, slide it up in here. Then we're just going to come back in with our lock washer and our nut, and we're going to do just like we did with the others and tighten it down. We'll use 2 14 mil wrenches to tighten that down, but let me show you guys in a bit how to actually torque these down with the torque wrench. All right. All right, guys, so now we're to that last step of putting that drive shaft on, and we're going to mate it to the companion flange, or known as a yoke. So the max torque for these bolts are 36 foot-pounds. We went ahead and tightened them up to 25. Then we went ahead and final torqued them to 36. All right, basically you're going to put your wrench behind and use a deep well socket to get around the yoke to get in there to get to the bolt cap to torque it on that way. But the proper way would be to use a 14 crow's foot and come in the backside and hit the nut. But since we can't get to it, we'll torque it from the front. But when I was using the crow's foot, it was slipping, so we didn't want to round the head of the nut off. So we went ahead and just put the deep well 3/8 socket on 12 point and went ahead and torqued it from the front. If you guys have any questions about this, or how to set a torque wrench up, or how to adjust a torque wrench, hey, leave those comments below. But you don't really have to spend a whole lot of money on an expensive torque wrench if you're just going to be a backyard mechanic. Now, if you're doing more of a professional, you want to get a quality torque wrench like a Snap-on or whatever you have out there. You know, there's multiple torque wrenches out there. A lot of it comes down to your preference, your warranty, and whatnot. So but if you're just doing backyard stuff, you can get fairly decent stuff like at Lowe's, Home Depot, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, whatever you got. It's better to have it torqued than not having it torqued, and you can end up breaking the bolt, and then you'll be, you know, in a bad place, in a bad area. You never know what could happen. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure we get everything torqued down. And the next thing we're going to do is go over here to the differential and drain the old oil, and we will fill with new gear oil. Okay. All right, guys, if you have stayed with me this long, we're going to go ahead and get ready to drain the 90 weight, 80/90. The book price says $75.90 GL5, which is the correct gear oil, but I'm sure I put 80/90 in here because it was cheaper. But that was probably like in 2009, so it's been a little bit. The plug size is a 24 mil. All right, you want to get on here and just get a big, breaker bar, 1/2 inch drive, about 20 inches long. Break that plug. Always remove the fill before you remove the drain, because if that's stuck, you can't get it back up in there. If not, you're going to be going through the vent, and that'd be a very, very painful process of putting oil into your differential. So before you do anything, you want to come in here, just wire brush everything, get all the dirt off. So we don't want dirt to get back in there. So let's make sure we do all that, guys. All right. Now we're gonna go take a look in real time how that 90 weight looks. It's pretty amberish. It looks about what it did when I put it in 2009. So that was just the cheap AutoZone Coastal brand, I believe, or Advanced Auto. I don't remember. It was Coastal something. But that was the oil. We don't have no chunks coming out. We don't have no metal flake. Make sure you use a clean oil pan, then you can really determine if you got any contamination coming out of your differential. All right. If it looks silver, it's time for a rebuild. You're pretty much got a shot bearing. All right. If you see like a bronzish color, pretty much your gears are getting chewed up, ate up. If it's like black, you got something catastrophic, going off, or you're basically burning it up, or your pinion is too tight and backlash is too tight. So other than that, guys, it's just, we're going to use a pump and refill this. We'll put the plug back in and we'll fill it up until the oil starts to come out the plug, and give it a couple more pumps so we get that level up, and we'll kind of keep our finger over that. So we're ready to put the plug in as the oil's ready to come exploding out. So we're going to fill that up. But now's the time to get in here with a bore scope and check your gears if you wanted to. Other than that, it's, use the 75/90 gear oil. They come in bags now, so you can get the bag flexed up in here, and squirt it in. And that's a lot better than using like a hand pump, trying to pump it in there, or using a suction gun and squirting the oil into it. What works pretty good is if you don't have all that and you got some like clear hose, you could put in here, and you could use a buddy in a funnel, you know, next to the truck and just fill it that way. But you know, the gear oil has got very expensive here over the last few years, so you don't want to really waste it. Other than that, guys, that's pretty much the entire repair for your pinion seal. Okay, the first video we seen how to remove everything. We used a 30mm socket to pull the pinion nut off. We used 2 14s to take your drive shaft off, and depending how your drive shaft is, you might have to use a lady finger pry bar in between the yoke to hold it steady to break the 14mm nuts loose. Then keep it in neutral, you know, and rotate your drive shaft to get to the proper nuts to be removed. When taking off the 30mm nut, just use a 1/2" impact and zip it off, you know, electric or pneumatic. With that being said, just take a measurement of your nut so you know if you don't have a torque wrench, how many threads the nut's sticking out before you remove it completely. If you guys got any comments or questions about what we did today, let me know. We'll get back to you at a different time. Just leave those comments below. Other than that, we'll go ahead and finish the install of the oil into the differential. I'm not going to record that, but we got more projects coming, and we're going to get into more electrical and stuff like that, and we're going to talk about some other projects I got here that are causing some extreme havoc. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. All right, have a good one.